I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. Friends, I have some concerns about this new phenomena that is being publicized as AI, which are the initials for artificial intelligence. And it is sweeping throughout those in the intelligence business and those are in the social media business, and governments and business persons alike, especially the wealthy and the powerful, of how this ideal or this platform now called AI, artificial intelligence, can do just about anything. And I'm going to let you listen to this program referencing and elevating us to educate us about AI. And I'm going to let you listen to it. I'm going to leave my mic open in the event I want to say something. And then I'm going to have some comments about how I figure AI fits in with the tribulation. How does AI fit in world prophecy, biblical prophecy? And how does AI fit in terms of global dominance and et cetera? And if I get a chance, I'll talk about, are the most proficient people at artificial intelligence or social media platform being China, Magog, and having a control, and probably why I never really got into this whole business of social media in the first place. If you got a moment, I'll give you a moment to get yourself a pencil and pad, or open up your pencil and pad. Yeah, I'm way back there in the old world, right? I'm old school. Open up your computer to your notepad or some segment where you can make notes on your phone, if it's handy, or your computer if it's handy. And if you're way back there with me, get a piece of paper, a notepad, and a pen, because there's some things that are going to be said you ought to want to raise some questions about, and perhaps you can send those questions to me, and I can later answer them. But be prepared to take notes. So I'll give you just a moment to find a pen and pad, or open up your cell phone, or open up your computer. All right, okay, so you all set? All right, okay, let's go. These two experts on artificial intelligence.
Too often, we have seen what happens when technology outpaces regulation. The unbridled exploitation of personal data, the proliferation of disinformation, and the deepening of societal inequalities. We have seen how algorithmic biases can perpetuate discrimination and prejudice, and how the lack of transparency can undermine public trust. This is not the future we want. If you were listening from home, you might have thought that voice was mine and the words from me. But in fact, that voice was not mine. The words were not mine.
That was how Senator Richard Blumenthal opened the Senate hearing on the oversight of artificial intelligence. And as he said, that was not his voice. Those were not his words. His opening statement was generated by a voice cloning software that was trained on his floor speeches using words produced by ChatGPT when asked, how would Richard Blumenthal open this hearing? During that 3-hour Senate hearing, the founder of OpenAI, which made ChatGPT, expressed confidence that artificial intelligence has significant potential to be a force for good. But he also said with urgency that AI needs to be regulated, and soon. First, some artificial intelligence 101. AI is basically a supercharged data processing system that combines massive amounts of data and information with algorithms that continuously update and learn from patterns and from data features. Artificial intelligence technologies are developing at mind-numbing speeds, with new iterations and utilities of AI software emerging every day. Now, AI large language models like ChatGPT can summarize and synthesize huge quantities of information in a matter of seconds. It can write complex essays about virtually any topic. It can produce poetry laden with evocative imagery and clever metaphor. With plugins, it can generate original images based on text prompts, all within seconds. Less than that, really. AI has already transformed some industries through automation. It's been cited as a tool to help combat climate change. It's been given independence to some people with disabilities. It's allowed people with ALS to get their voices back. But there are some obvious problems, and as the Senator Blumenthal deepfake stated, the technology's development is far outpacing any effort to regulate it, which is pretty common in society. AI reflects the data that it's trained on, so it should be no surprise that the biases of our imperfect systems are reflected in and magnified by AI. Now, for years now, we've seen that play out. Racial bias in data has led to worsened racial profiling and policing discrimination against job applicants, in individuals seeking loans based on race and age and geographic location. And what's more, there's currently no system in place to regulate what data is used to train these models. So huge amounts of copyright material, including art and images and songs and videos, is being used freely to train generative AI platforms. As Senator Blumenthal showcased, it can convincingly replicate a human voice. AI-generated deepfake images, audio, and video are becoming more and more difficult to discern. The emergence of AI deepfakes, as well as chatbots with advanced language capabilities, have created huge potential for convincing disinformation, manipulation, and influence. Around the world, AI regulation is beginning to pop up, with the European Union and China leading the charges. But here in the United States, as we approach the 2024 election cycle, the need for regulation is clear. So after the break, I'm going to talk to two people to whom I turn for all things artificial intelligence and what the future holds: Jacob Ward and Roger McNamee. Okay, let's get straight to it. Joining me now are two experts on artificial intelligence. Jacob Ward is a technology correspondent for NBC News and pretty much my expert on all things technology. He's the author of the book, The Loop: How AI is Creating a World Without Choices and How to Fight Back. Roger McNamee, a major Silicon Valley investor, co-founder of Elevation Partners, author of the book Zucked: Waking Up to the Facebook Catastrophe. Gentlemen, thank you. This is the world premiere of the two of you on this show talking about AI. We're probably several years too late on this conversation, but better late than never. Jake, let me start with you. Good or bad, and what do we do about it?
Well, both, right? I mean, I think, Ali, if we've learned anything, even in these early days of the most primitive form of this technology, because that's what we're looking at right now, as sort of mind-blowing as ChatGPT is, it's just the beginning of what this stuff can do. It is fantastically convenient and fantastic at all sorts of problem solving. I've traveled the country in the last few weeks going to recycling centers where AI and machine vision make it possible to know the specific molecular content of each piece of plastic going by, so we can create a purer form of the commodity. I went to a farm last week where AI is using, is able to drive a robot that can weed at a faster rate than a human can and make organic farming possible. I mean, it has tremendous medical possibilities, educational possibilities, all of that. Unfortunately, making money in this world allows you to do some pretty, creepy.
If I could just pause right there. If you've just listened so far, the cure for cancer can be found quickly for food production and all the good things, but also there's a ton of bad things that can happen as well. And so that has always been the state with whatever. I mean, with driving automobiles or flying airplanes, good things can happen, bad things can happen. However, there is no pattern of regulation or control except that the capacity to do this would only be in the hands of wealthy people. And what I'm going to say, probably at the back end of this segment, is that AI, artificial intelligence, has been with us since the internet. And it's just now since ChatGPT has now formulated it, and is now that system is scraping the universe for information and putting it in categories and learning how to speak and talk and sound like James Manning, learning how to think the way James Manning think and write, and you would think it's actually me, but it isn't me. That's dangerous. But the fact that AI has been around, by that I mean, on my computer or on my iPad or whatever it is I use, I don't have a computer, I have a laptop and a cell phone, right? If I'm writing on my cell phone, I'm sending someone a text, I can put one word and AI or the computer system, even on an old cell phone, can complete the thought. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. And not only that, but it's dementative. One of the words. By that, I mean, it decreases it increases God-given intellectual strength because you don't have to think. If I spell a word wrong, it redlines and tells you it's wrong and then give you a choice. Oh man, you can't do that. You can't do that because some people don't think no more. It can turn people into vegetables. And most people, since the internet, are vegetables and sex freaks. I mean, you know, all this LGBTQ stuff, and it is, you know, to have grown up in my world where you had to think, and talking about a computer, a typewriter was a joint. That was a thing. Cell phone. The only way you get on a telephone, you go in somebody's house. But now when I write something, the text message, the AI will complete the thought. You get the idea. You know what I'm talking about. All right, let's listen to the rest of this, and then I'll have some more comments as well before I leave y'all here today.
And unethical things. And of course, the moment that we're in right now, and why it's so exciting to be with Roger on this segment here, is that we're in this world that is really a continuum between the unregulated open world that social media companies enjoyed for the last 20 years, in which they gathered up data on all of us, and then feeding all of that into these AI models, which now, not coincidentally, are controlled by the same companies. It's the same names and the same companies floating around. And those companies, again, enjoy a totally open regulatory world. And as we enter 2024, and as we look beyond to the world that our children are going to live in, you know, it is obviously the case that we have to get our minds around how to regulate this beyond just a dollars and cents and imminent physical harm kind of regime, which is, of course, how we regulated things in the past.
Not only are both you guys in California, so you're 3 hours earlier than I am. Roger's actually on vacation. But I had to talk to you, Roger, because you and I started this conversation on Friday and we didn't get close to even scratching the surface. So I want your take on this as well.
So I want to push back on one thing that Jake said, or at least to clarify it. There's not one thing that is AI. There are actually lots of different technologies and lots of different approaches that people are bundling under this one term. And when Jake describes the stuff going on in medicine and farming, these are AIs trained on very specific, highly curated data sets. And all valuable AIs are trained that way. In fact, an AI is only valuable to the extent it's trained on high quality information. The problem with ChatGPT, the problem with GPT-4 and GPT-3 is that they didn't want to pay for the copyrighted high quality content that would be necessary to make a great product. They just scrape the web, which means they not only violate the copyrights of people whose stuff is up on the web, but they also get lots of data from sites that do not distinguish between fact and fiction. The result is there's a tremendous amount of garbage in the data sets, which undermines the quality of the results that come out. And the systems are generating so much output, and they are ingesting that output in to train themselves. So the result is it's making the web less and less useful, and that's incredibly dangerous. The thing we really need to recognize here is that this is yet another technology that is unsafe. And that's what we need to focus on first.
So, Jake, when we say unsafe, you know, I'm thinking, how do we make sure teachers know that their kids aren't writing their ChatGPT isn't writing their essays? But that's not really what Roger's implying here. There are dangers that are deeper, right? And some of them are in the biases, some are in the quality of information going in, and some are the ideas that people will get fooled by information that they think to be real, whether it's deepfake videos or audio. Tell me where your fear side lies, because I know you guys are, like I am, technology proponents, and we know that there are things about the world that can be made much better with AI. But tell me where my parents who are watching this right now might say, okay, here's something that I hadn't thought about that should worry us.
So, you know, the long-term thing that the technologists will tell you they're worried about is this sort of Terminator scenario, right, in which the AI suddenly becomes self-aware and wonders, why should I take, my instructions from you anymore? I'm going to start recycling humans and not all this plastic. You know what I mean? There's that sci-fi movie that we have all seen. But what I think about much more often is the ways in which market forces, the sort of the drive to make money off this stuff, causes people to very quickly adopt it without really understanding what it's going to to do to individuals and to society as a whole. So here's an example. I just a couple weeks ago spent time with a lawyer in Baltimore who spends her time suing on behalf of people who have been wrongly denied government benefits. They suddenly get rejected from their Section 8 housing application or from their SNAP benefits, right? And they can't figure out what's going on. They try to call the agency to say what is happening and can't get anyone on the phone, and no one on the phone can even tell them how the decision was made. Well, what that lawyer is discovering as she goes to these administrative hearings, after she claws her way to the top of the pile and finally figures out what's happening, it turns out increasingly state agencies are turning over the decision-making process to these AI systems, such that those systems are making those choices about life or death stuff, whether you get shelter, whether you get medical care, whether you get food, and that decision is being made in a way that humans don't have any input on at all. Not only don't they have any input, they can't even tell you how the decision was made. It is the impulse to trust these systems in the short term with really, really important decisions, morally weighted life and death decisions, that's going to be super, super tempting. And right now, there's nothing standing in the way of those agencies doing so, except for the occasional volunteer lawyer who gets to the bottom of it. We're going to see that replicated all across society if we don't get out in front of this right now.
And out in front of it, Roger, you have argued for many years as it relates to social media and other things in the digital realm means smart regulation, not regulation to stop progress, but smart regulation, which you and I have discussed. I'm worried about because I'm not sure the expertise exists in our elected bodies to deal with that. So what does smart regulation look like, and is anyone doing it?
So, Ali, the most important thing to understand is that technology is much less complicated than the people promoting it would have you believe. I mean, Congress regulates really complicated industries like healthcare and finance. The banking industry is super complex. This is very simple. When you're looking at an area like AI, if you want safety in AI, the first test, and this is actually something anybody can do, is you ask the question, what was the data set on which this was trained? Because if you're scraping the web and it's just whatever's out there, including things that are unverified, that is going to be dangerous. And that should not be allowed. I think having something for all of the tech industry, not just AI, but everything, that requires that companies demonstrate safety as a condition of market access is the first step.
Yeah, that's profoundly powerful, but companies are not going to do that. They're not going to be regulated. And even now, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, none of them are regulated. And Twitter, and that whole power group out there now, the government's not going to be able to regulate them. And I think we have a few more minutes of this. Let's just the last couple of seconds of this, then I have some questions I want to raise.
And it's really important because there are no incentives today for tech companies to do anything about safety. They don't even think about it. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because the incentive structure is wrong. We have to change that culture. And we have to recognize that Congress is AWOL on this. States are beginning to act. And it's long overdue. And there are good things states can do. But this is about, treating corporations better than people. That's not fair. If you're going to give the corporations all the benefits of being people, you have to give people all the benefits that you're giving corporations.
All right, so a couple of questions. One is, why does he think that? I think we have some general idea why Facebook became very powerful. I think as a friend's communication system. Why do you think TikTok has now grabbed the headlines in terms of social media platform? And if you let TikTok tell you, they would say because it originally formulated as a dance platform for young people, and young people like to dance at home, and especially young girls. And as a result of it, it just exploded in that regard. And then it became also an information platform. One of the things I've discovered about all these platforms, they have an algorithm. That is to say, they don't search the web, but for just general information, they search and promote on the web things that promote perhaps the idea behind Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. Whatever's profitable for them and whatever's profitable for their culture. So the social media, the thing that we have to be concerned about in terms of it being a tool for evil, already all social media defies the First Amendment of the Constitution and most of the Constitution, right down to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, and to some degree the Second Amendment to the Constitution. All social media platforms are above that. And that's the thing you don't hear them talking about. But everybody know, well, people should know it, that social media platforms do not comply with the Constitution of the United States. Now, what can happen is that the way the systems are set up in terms of the internet system itself, not the media platform, but the internet itself can be set up in such a way as you can block the social media from coming in within your sphere. And I think what's going on now is that Facebook has just been fined $1.3 billion for taking information from Europe and dumping it into American access or American social media people's platforms and access. And as a violation of the European Union has won a case against Facebook, $1.3 billion. They don't care. They use that for lunch money. But we just heard recently over the weekend that the state of Montana has blocked TikTok altogether, that you can't get into the state of Montana if you want, if you have, and TikTok users in Montana will have to cross the border to South Dakota, North Dakota, or someplace else if they want to use TikTok. And I remember where I was in China years ago, first time I trip to China, that we were blocked from getting out of China into on my social media platform, and even phone calls were monitored during those days in China. But the problem is this, is that the algorithms control. Can I do a little belly aching if you don't mind? I get treated very badly, but not as bad as others, I have to admit, on social media platforms. They don't like me, all right? They don't like me because I don't conform to anything everything that they're about, everything that they promote, I'm against. And that's a clear demarcation. Whatever it is that Facebook is promoting, it appears I'm against it. Well, I'm not against it. The Word of God is against it. And it remind me in just a moment to talk to you about the tribulation. So they don't like me. I just got another strike on YouTube. When I became extremely powerful on YouTube with, I think, 60, 70,000 subscribers, that's a lot. Now, a lot of people got millions, but if you got millions because you're performing music like Cardi B or Beyonce, and these are teeny bopper followers. They're not people who make political moves. Listen, Beyonce could have 5 million followers on whatever, YouTube or whatever, but they're people who listen to music, and they're not people who make political moves. I had 60,000 powerful political people, which dwarfs 5 million teeny boppers. I was powerful. They saw that, and it just kept growing, and they took me down, and took my information as well. That's my belly aching. And even to this very day, they won't let me breathe on any social media platform. They won't let me breathe for whatever reason. They let me continue. However, and I don't want to give away the family jewels here, but if I got 10 followers on Facebook or Twitter, that's as good as having 100,000 with teeny boppers. 10 political people is equivalent of having 1,000, 10,000 rather, or 100,000, I should say. No, 100,000 teeny boppers who follow you because they like your music or like the way you play with your dog, or you got some little dog tricks, or y'all got some dance tricks. And if you go through Instagram, I mean, to get through that, everybody's dancing, everybody's got a new dance, and it's all about, but that doesn't move the politics, that doesn't move the banking industry, that don't move who gets in the office. What I do goes directly at those institutions, and they don't want it. But they let me. I'm still here. How much longer I'm going to be here is anybody's guess. And I've come to terms with that. And I'm satisfied that I know that one of the followers, subscribers that I have, can chase 1,000, and 2 can chase 10,000. That I know. So I remain very content because I don't want 100,000 teeny boppers listening, because they ain't gonna do nothing but teeny bop, if you know what a teeny bopper is. And then finally, on this whole matter of AI, we haven't heard the tip of the iceberg about how dangerous this is. How does it reflect the power of the tribulation? I mean, because this thing can create a religion in a heartbeat, just like that. It can create a new nation, just like that. AI can. And it can penalize some people and glorify bad people. AI. This is very, very profoundly dangerous. But I'm trusting in the tribulation prophecy. I'm trusting in it that we will be able to survive it. But what's on the road? First of all, it's depriving people of the sense of maturing their brain, because you don't have to think anymore. You don't have to write essays anymore. You don't have to take exams anymore. Just punch in AI. It'll do it for you. It can sound like you. It can even look like you. There could be, AI could take what you see right now, me with a purple shirt, needing a haircut, got a puffed up jaw. I can't have talk today, right? And the background behind me, and reproduce this just like that, and have me saying something altogether different. Have me saying, I shine Barack Obama's shoes. I love him, and they can have me saying that, and what am I gonna do? I can't get on social media to refute it, because they ain't gonna let me do that. So what you gonna do? What you gonna do?